You guys know I am obsessed with fragrance notes. I feel like as a hobbyist, a collector, you are eventually going to want to learn more about the fragrance industry and about the individual notes. You are seeing on note breakdowns, what they all mean, how they smell individually. So I want to create a video today where I'm basically going to suggest to you my current #1 fragrances, mainly for beginners who want to experience a specific notes in its entirety. A fragrance that really highlights a specific scent, a specific ingredient in fragrances. Often these are very common notes, but they can be quite tricky to understand. So if you bear with me, you will be experiencing some very beginner-friendly scents and some of that I think are absolutely excellent. So let's begin. The note of coconut. Jean-Paul Gaultier Le Beau Paradise Garden. A very easy to understand and easy to appreciate coconut fragrance. Tonka bean, coconuts, green notes, watery notes, fig, sandalwood, some very creamy, smooth notes in here in general. Coconut almost gives a sort of suntan lotion effect to a lot of fragrances. It makes them obviously very tropical and it's an acquired taste. So I think it's a good idea to experience a coconut heavy fragrance to see if it's your kind of style, if it's something you enjoy in your own fragrance wardrobe. I think this is a very solid spring and summer signature scent, and I get at least 6 to 8 hours with a medium to soft projection with this fragrance, but a lot of other people get much more than I do. Most people say this is quite a beastly fragrance, so that's very useful. It's fresh, balanced, my favorite from the Le Beau line, and it's a great performer. The note of lemon, which is predominantly a top note, a fragrance note that comes in the beginning when you first apply a fragrance, is going to have to be Chanel's Allure Homme Edition Blanche. I think every collector should experience this fragrance. It's a masterpiece. It takes lemon, which can be quite a boring and generic note. It elongates it so it's present throughout most of the duration of this fragrance, and it makes it very interesting. Really unique idea of being more creamy, elegant, Chanel-esque, with a brightness, an absolute beautiful smooth blend. A lot of people say this is like a lemon meringue pie. It has that creamy vanilla touch in the dry down. One of the best lemon fragrances ever made, one of the best fragrances ever made. So yes, it's more expensive, which is a bit tough for beginners, but I do think it's worth this price tag and it's definitely worth experiencing. And to just talk a bit more about the lemon note itself, lemon is a very sharp, obviously sour, sometimes harsh top notes. So something like this that smooths it out and kind of tones it down a bit while still making it a main character in the fragrance is very clever. 37.9% of people who watch School of Scent are subscribed to us. If you guys really want to see our channel grow, go ahead and click subscribe. Let's get that number to 40%. Thank you. The note of Ambroxan, which is a synthetic replica of the note of ambergris, which is whale excrement, which is extremely rare and generally not used very often in the industry anymore. I'm actually going to suggest Molecule 02 by Escentric Molecules. A lot of people talk about Molecule 01 for increasing the longevity of a fragrance. I think Molecule 02 is better for that. Ambroxan gives your fragrance usually at least 2 hours extra longevity when you spray this on first and spray another fragrance on top of it. It's a longevity booster, and then also on its own, it's just a very pleasant aroma. Ambroxan has this salty, animalic, musky, marine base of ambergris. It's a replica of that. It's very pleasant. It makes any fragrance DNA very mass appealing. That's why you find it in very popular scents like Dior Sauvage. It is a revolutionary molecule once made synthetically in labs recently, and it's really changed the fragrance game forever. So it's handy to have a fragrance like this for the longevity boosting aspect, but also just to have the Ambroxan note isolated. This is the only note that's inside this fragrance is isolated. That's kind of the appeal of a lot of Escentric molecule fragrances. They use one single molecule, and that's all you're getting, and you sort of get to experience the magic and the allure of that individual note. The note of vanilla, which is very traditionally sweet and has a sort of gourmand edible aspect to it. I would have put Armani Code Absolu here, but that is discontinued. So instead I will put this fragrance here, and that is Hugo Boss Bottled Elixir. A very sexy, handsome DNA that lets you appreciate the note of vanilla because you can smell it in the backbone throughout its entire 10-hour duration. This is spicy, fuzzy, warm, vanillic of course, and vanilla is a fragrance note that can be a little bit cloying, a little bit too overpowering if done in a weird way. But this is balanced, really easy to wear, especially in the upcoming cool weather seasons. This is a very useful fragrance and very reasonably priced. One of the best Elixir fragrances out there on the market today. The notes of mint, which can come in different varieties such as spearmint, peppermint, but generally you're going to get a very green, camphorous, outdoorsy, cooling effect from your fragrance with this note. My recommendation is Prada Luna Rosa, the original. This can also be the fragrance for anyone who wants to experience lavender in an isolated form. This is a simplistic fragrance. Mint, lavender, musks, soapy, clean Prada. 4 to 6 hours longevity, very simple but beautifully done. This is a very inoffensive fragrance. It's kind of like a school or office fragrance that's very easy to like, very traditionally masculine, cooling with a nice mint nose in here. This is very good. And it's a cool fragrance because mint is not a very common fragrance in the industry. I'm actually wearing our own release Atrium Mr. Momentum one spray on my wrist right now. It is a unique note and I feel like more fragrances should explore it for sure. Also, I just feel like this is a great fragrance to introduce you to the brand of Prada in general. This is basically their style personified in one fragrance. The note of tobacco, dark, deep, rich, inviting, masculine, and intense, in my opinion, is how I would describe tobacco. You can get obviously the very smoky, ashy cigarettes-like tobaccos, and then the more smooth, almost tobacco leaf-esque kind of tobaccos. It has to be Dolce&Gabbana, the One Eau de Parfum. This is one of the safest, most handsome day-night fragrances in the game. A lot of people know it. It is still a timeless classic. Throughout the fragrance community's many years online, this fragrance always pops up. It's very natural smelling, and that's what I think contributes to that timeless feeling of this fragrance. Ginger, warm ambers, a lot of tobacco in here, cardamom, very sexy, balanced, very handsome, very easy to like. If you just want to smell like the very mysterious, enigmatic man, I feel like tobacco is just a great note to have in evening-esque fragrances. There are fragrances that use it, and overall this fragrance smells like it's meant for the daytime, but tobacco is generally more of an evening note. And it lets you appreciate fragrances that are more suited for the evening. You appreciate darker fragrances. This is a great introduction into that world of fragrances, those evening darker scents. The note of cardamom, which is on its own earthy, aromatic, spicy, intense, but you smooth it out with woody ambers and you often find it in very romantic, handsome DNAs, such as in La Nuit de l'Homme by YSL. You can go for the Blue Electric if you can get it, otherwise you can go for the original. Cardamom is used heavily in this DNA, it's famous for it. It has this very romantic, handsome effect. A beautiful day-night fragrance, also just a signature you can rock. It is a masterpiece, it is a work of art. Not the best performance in the original anymore, unfortunately, but overspray to your heart's content and you'll likely find a signature for life. The note of iris is a floral note that is quite powdery, a little bit earthy, intense, elegant, can smell a bit too feminine if it's overused, but overall gives a distinct edge to your fragrance and makes you stand out. Valentino Uomo, but not this bottle, this is Coral Fantasy. I'm gonna actually say Valentino Uomo Intense, which I think is a very beginner-friendly iris fragrance. To me, it is comparable to something like Dior Homme Intense, but I think Dior Homme Intense is a little bit more challenging. Valentino Uomo Intense is a vanilla, powdery, dark iris fragrance, more of a gourmand aspect to the scent, with a leather backbone as well. I think it's easier to understand, it's more mass appealing, and it's still a very sexy fragrance. There's a lot of evening iris-based fragrances out there like Dior Homme Intense, Prada L'Homme Intense, Valentino Uomo Intense, Givenchy Gentleman Eau de Parfum, but I do think this is the most beginner-friendly, so go ahead and check it out. The note of leather, which is obviously quite animalic if it's used in really high amounts. It smells leathery. It can smell like you're next to a cow, or it can smell like the interior of a luxury car, depending on how it's used in the fragrance. I'm gonna recommend Tom Ford's Ombre leather. Yes, you as a beginner are gonna spend a little bit more money, but you probably wanna explore the brand of Tom Ford anyway. Most people do. It's a cool brand. It is famous for good reason. Ombre leather basically takes leather and makes it the star of the show. It takes other notes to round it out and make it more soft, more subdued, so it's not too harsh. Its more harsh brother would be something like Tuscan leather. This is mellowed out, soft, interior of a black car, leather kind of perfumery here that is smoky, very elegant. It is unisex, but I would say leans more masculine overall. This is a fantastic signature. It smells photorealistic and a great way to see if you like leather-based perfumery. And lastly, the note of tonka bean, which was one of the first aroma chemicals to be isolated in perfumery. It sort of birthed the world of modern day perfumes. Tonka Bean can be musky, sweet, warm. It gives a different kind of sweetness to something like vanilla. That smells more edible. This is more smooth and creamy. And this is a great fragrance to experience a high amount of Tonka Bean in the DNA. That is Chanel's Allure Homme Sport Eau Extrême. Not my favorite from the line, but this is a fantastic scent that is unique. You won't find any other fragrance like this really in the designer market. It is minty mandarin with creamy musks, and the creaminess also comes from the Tonka Bean here. It is quite high. Tonka Bean, as I said, can be quite synthetic, musky, but they use it to a perfect amount here, perfect proportions. Chanel is fantastic with their blends, and I think this stands the test of time. This stands testament to that. Long lasting as well, 8 hours of really good versatility. You can wear this fragrance all year round. It smells a bit sporty, but it's just a very clean, creamy, elegant signature you can wear any place, anytime. And that concludes this list, guys. What are your thoughts on my suggestions for beginner-friendly, note-heavy fragrances? I do feel like these fragrances do focus on those particular notes really strongly, but you may disagree with me. Let me know in the comments down below. If you guys had to recommend your #1 fragrance for a particular note to a beginner, what will they be? Let us also know in the comments down below, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my previous video on how I would describe how individual perfume notes smell. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.